Good morning. Thanks for having me back into your house again. Glad to be here. We'll try to start off today. I'll tell you, you've heard me tell of my friend, Old Honker. Well, this is an old honk story. I was at home one day and the phone rang, and I recognized it as being Honk's cell phone. So I answered it, and he was whispering. I was having a hard time hearing him. And he said, John. And I said, Honk, what's the matter? Called me back on the house phone. Real soon, real quick. I was, but he had already hung up. There was no need in hung. So I thought, well, I better do that. So I dialed up the house phone number there at Honker's residence, and Miss Maud answered the phone, and I said, can I speak to Honk? She said, well, I've got him vacuuming in the garage right now, John, but I'll see if he's where he can let up. Well, of course he was. And he comes on the phone, and he gets to whispering. And he says, tell Maud that you need me to help you with something. So she's got me tied up in housework, and it's killing me. We'll ride around or something. Just tell her that you need me to help you. Well, I kind of hate to tell one that's not completely true, but, you know, a friend in need and all this stuff. So I told him, I said, well, let me speak to Maud. He did. I said, Maud, I need Honk to help me a while. Well, he's really wanting to get out of the house anyway. He said, well, we have company coming tonight, and I have him doing some house cleaning, but I guess I can spare him if you really need him. I said, oh, I really need him. So he got back on the phone and said, come get me. You've sprung me. Come get me. So I drive up to Honk's and pick him up. I said, what are we going to do, Honk? Well, let's just ride around a while. Corn was coming in pretty good at that time. He says, just ride around and look at some of the cornfields. He said, I always enjoy seeing corn growing. So we ride down Hickory Valley. If you've never ridden in Hickory Valley in the springtime, there's lots of corn raised in Hickory Valley. Lots of it. And some very pretty cornfields. If you appreciate seeing corn growing, that's a good place to see it. We were riding along, and there was a field of corn there. I don't know how many acres. It was large. It went way on back, away from where we were. What struck me was it was all so uniform. It was just almost like you could have gotten out and walked across the tops of the corn. It was so green, it was almost black looking. It was so dark green. Very pretty field of corn. I told Honk, I said, I guess right there is the prettiest field of corn I have ever seen. Well, I knew Honk can never be topped. Well, that is a very pretty field of corn, he said, but I have seen one, at least one, better than it. Really? I knew there was a story coming. He said, up in the Virginia Peninsula, where I was raised in the summertime, I lived on up closer to Baltimore most of the year, but in the summertime we'd go down to the old family farm. My Uncle Herbert farmed. All the other siblings had all moved up closer to Baltimore and worked in town, but Uncle Herbert ran the family farm. He had a field of corn that was actually prettier than that. I said, well, it must have been some. Oh, it was. People came from miles around to see it. It was really something. Of course, Uncle Herbert kept hogs. One day, an old sow got out. They were chasing it in an attempt to get it put back in the pen. it cut a corner there and broke over a stalk of that corn. It was like one of the kids had been injured or something. Uncle Herbert just couldn't deal with it. There was an old mop handle there that some of the kids had been using for a stick horse, and he grabbed it up and he put that stalk of corn back up and propped it with that mop handle. That fall, when they harvested that field of corn, every stalk in that field had 2 good ears on it, even the one that was propped. And that old mop handle had a pretty good nubbin on it. So I guess that's my best cornfield story that I know. Thank you.